Hello, welcome to the Crates Motel. My name's Conan. Today's video is a follow-up to a previous video where I showed how to chop up breaks to build your own drum kits. I had quite a few requests after that video asking how I would then build that into a drum kit. So that's what this video is about today. Let's jump in. So, as is always the case with the MPC, there's more than one way to do things. I'm just going to show you today how I build a drum kit with the intention of saving the drum kit or selling the drum kit or sharing the drum kit. Now, what you have to take into consideration is when you build a drum kit, it might not just be for people using MPCs. People might just want your sounds. They might want to use it on a different sampler, etc. So the way that I build a drum kit is obviously in that folder, I will save the sounds, but I will also save an MPC program. The reason why I do that is because if people do want to use it on the MPC, it's easy for them to just open the program. But also some other samplers do actually read MPC programs, XPM files, if I remember rightly. So it's worthwhile just doing that. If you like, you can take each individual sound and save it into a folder so you've just got folders full of drum sounds. You can do that if you want, but for this video, I'm going to show you how to build the kit and save it as a drum program, which can then be used in the MPC, but can also be used in other samplers, obviously. So I've turned the MPC on, I've hit new project. By default, it will load up a drum program, drum 001. To save going through the whole process that I did in the previous video, I've got 16 sounds loaded into the MPC already. So let's pretend that I've chopped those up. Obviously, when you build a kit, you can have more than 16 sounds. You've got 8 banks of 16. So you can fill that up if you like. But for today, we've just got 16 sounds. Now, let's just go back out again. So you go into Browse. It would normally be on that window. If you go into Sampler Sign, this is where you have your pool of sounds. So now what I want to do, I'm in Bank A. I just want to basically drag each sound onto a pad. How you build your kits is entirely up to you, the order in which you have the drum sounds. Some people have all their kicks on the same pad, all their snares on the same pad, that kind of thing. It's entirely up to you. Sorry, what I mean by that is, for instance, and I do actually build my kits like this sometimes, they might have all the kicks down here, all the hats there, all the snares there, and all the other sounds like cowbells or whatever there. Everyone has their own way of building a kit. It's entirely up to you. But just for this example, I've just literally dragged each drum individually onto its own pad. So there we have 16 sounds. At the top here would be where you would select what drum program you want to load it onto. As I said, by default, it's loaded up drum 001. You could select it there, or when you go into Browse, you can select it at the top here. So if I had multiple drum programs, I could select them here. But in this case, I only have one drum program, which is why there's only one drum program available. So we'll come back out again now. So now we have our drum program with our 16 sounds. Now, here's where you can run into some little issues, and you might save something and it doesn't turn out how you wanted it to turn out when you load it up somewhere else, or you give it to somebody else and they'll go, well, this hasn't got this on it, etc. Now, I explained in my previous video, when you're building drum kits with the intention of saving them, sharing them, selling them, you need to bake whatever effects, EQ, compression, reverb, etc. You need to bake that into the actual sound, because if you use effects on the MPC in the normal way, like here, you add your effects and then save that as a drum program, but you don't flatten the pad. That's going to be great if somebody else opens it on an MPC, but if they don't open it on an MPC, those effects and stuff are not going to be there. They're not going to be applied. So people are going to be, you're just going to be giving them raw sounds. So that's why I made that previous video about building your actual sounds, making your actual sounds and flattening the pad, because on drum kits that you're going to be sharing and selling, you want it baked in. So what you need to remember is, in the MPC, when you want to make changes to samples, once you've got them in a program, you have two ways of doing it. You can do it in Program Edit, where here you can change the start, the end. Like I said, you can add effects. Sorry, when you go to Program Edit, you'll be in the global page, go into samples, and there you go. You can add filters, all that kind of stuff. But when you export that and save your own program, that's not going to be baked into the sample. So like I said, if somebody else opens that sound on their computer or in another machine that isn't an MPC program reading machine, that's not going to be there. So you don't do it in Program Edit. If you want to save your own drum kits with the intention of sharing them, you need to do your changes in Sample Edit. So I've got the 16 sounds on there. I hope that made sense. I've got my 16 sounds here, and what I want to do before I save them in a program is I want to just quickly go through them and make sure that they're all in a good place, that the EQ, the compression, the reverb, I explained that in my previous video, and the start and the end is all in the right place. So we'll pretend that I've done that already. I'll go through each one. If I do want to make any changes, like for instance, that's got a little bit of a sound at the end there, so I might want to change the end a little bit. There you go, that's cleaner. What I need to remember to do is now I want to discard. So now I've baked in that chop. That sound's not going to be there. If I hadn't have done that, if I'd have just moved the endpoint and saved it, if somebody else opened it and they weren't using an MPC, that end would still be there. So now I've baked that in, I've chopped that up exactly how I want it. So you want to do that of each individual sound, basically. I'm not going to do that today. Actually, you can see that there's one sound there with the stop. There you go. That could be done. That could be trimmed, basically. So go through each individual sound and make sure it's in a good place and it's exactly where you want it to be. And then once you've done that, you can now save that drum kit. So now when you want to save the drum kit, now I have the save here on the sidebar, but some people might have it in the menu. I just have it on the sidebar here because I use it a lot. So it's just easy to access. So you have this whole bunch of save options. These save options come up when you hit save and you want to go to drum program. You then want to choose where you want to save it. I'm going to save it on my SD card. I'm going to save it in my MPC kits folder, and I want to make a new folder. Now, keep things organized. You know, honestly, name things properly. I'm just going to call this CM for Crates Motel, Kit 1. Now, normally I would date each kit that I do. I date everything. So I would put 2025-0421 at the start, and then I would do a name. But just keep things organized. Everyone has their own way of organizing things. But trust me, when you start having folders with hundreds of thousands of drum sounds, which I've got, if it's not organized, it can be an absolute nightmare. So keep things organized. The way that I do it, like I said, is to date it at the start so I know when I made the kit. So I'm now just naming the folder, bear in mind. So you can see in the tree at the top here, it's on my SD card, Conan MPC kits. I've named the folder CM Kit 01. Now I want to name the actual program. So we'll call that CM Kit 01. And now when I save this, it's going to save the program and the samples in the program. The benefit of that is when you share it or sell it, etc., if somebody uses their MPC, they just need to load that program and it will load up everything that you've already done. You've done all the hard work for them. They've just got that kit. Or if you transfer it to another MPC, you've just got that kit. It's done. It's already done. But also, if they don't have an MPC, they're going to have a folder with the samples in, and I'll show you now. So we've named the folder, we've named the kit. All I need to do now is hit save. So now if I want to find what I just saved, if I go into browse, this will open up. I can go into my places. In this case, it's going to be my SD card where I saved it. I can now find where my drum kits are, which is down at the bottom here. Open that up, go all the way to the bottom because it was the last kit that I saved. Open that up, and now you can see I have all the individual sounds that were in that program that I just built, that kit that I just built, and right at the bottom we have the XPM file, which can be loaded into other MPCs or other Akai samplers or the software. So there you have it. That's how I build drum kits in the MPC, and it's pretty much how I've built drum kits since the late 80s. For me, the reason why I do it like that, and I did explain in the video, is that if you're using, or if you're sharing it with somebody else who's using an Akai sampler or the Akai software, they can just drag and drop your kit into their song. Easy, easy. But if you don't use an Akai sampler, or you're not using a program that can read Akai programs, they still have all those WAVs in a folder. It's still a drum kit, and they can drag that into whichever sampler or whichever program they're using. So thanks for watching. This is the Crates Motel. My name's Conan. Till next time.